our midfield seemed to get overrun in the second half, particularly about the hour point. We seemed to be lacking energy in that part of the pitch. Hendry and Walker both seemed a little bit leggy at that point. And eventually that resulted in it being one-way traffic. It was a bit like being in a village, getting to the bus stop and there's only one bus an hour. It was and eventually they pummeled us, really. They had the two guys up front, two very big forwards. Davis and Turnbull, to their credit, dealt with them pretty well throughout the match. But eventually, Smith, the 6'5" number 9, he managed to eventually win a header, and it rebounds to one of their players, and they scored the goal. And you could almost hear the wind whistling in the Tranmere end. It was really a real gut-punching sort of moment, and the disappointment was etched over the players' faces right at the end. But we do have to still remember that we did get a point. It felt like a defeat, but it wasn't.
Yeah, definitely didn't feel like a positive point, though. Referring back to what Keith Hill used to say, it was an absolute sucker punch. But one of the things I sort of got frustrated with was yesterday, and all our set pieces, the few times when we had corners, we've only got Davis and Turnbull with any sort of height. And, a couple of the corners, they were just sort of floated in. It was easy pickings for the Sutton defence. And I think it's one thing Atkins said, I think, post-match, we were so careless in possession. And, you look at these moments where, what do we do on the training field for set pieces against big sides? Because we don't seem to have an alternative. We don't think it out. Is it lazy? Is no one sort of brave enough to do something different? And I think it summed it up in the last minute when we had a free kick on the right. And Hendry floated it over. I think it went out for a goal kick. I think it went over everybody. And then that was it. And, you feel so deflated when it's almost like, get it to the edge of the box and somebody have a shot, do something different. But yeah, you start to then question what do they do on the training field? Because it's the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, the moments at the end with Hendry rather epitomised our efforts at set pieces. Unfortunately, we did seem to be very poor in our delivery on those in those moments. But we do have a scarcity of options up front, and obviously, I think we will be talking about the injury to Norris. And it felt like, again, the country bus run, and all our buses were single deckers.
Yeah, it is like, we're almost gambling on Norris being back, early January. But I'm of the view of we can't take that risk and think we can hang on on the hope that he might come back fit and not break down again. But I think from yesterday, the midfield's a big worry, because even, you could have players up front who can run, but Walker, he's a liability. His legs, even the start of the game, I thought we were showing good energy here, but it quickly fizzled out. And in a few games I've seen with Walker, the opposition can just sort of not even dance around him, just very, very quickly get past him, and he hasn't got the legs to put a tackle in. Now, if you had O'Connor in that position, he would take the player out or at least get a tackle in. I think now we've got enough cover in the fullbacks to allow for O'Connor to move back into that defensive holding midfield role, or even Merry go there when he's back from injury. But to me, Walker's not the answer.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that, because with a central defensive midfielder, you can't have a player who is only playing 60 minutes. We can't be substituting that player. We need our forwards to be the ones who we rotate. And clearly at about the hour mark, Walker looked gone again in that match, unfortunately. And I would have probably said O'Connor is the best option there, but he was having a pretty good game at right back. Strangely enough, Adkins took off both our fullbacks during the match. They both had pretty good games, but I wonder whether he is thinking that he might need to be having Pike at right back and O'Connor is the option at left back.
Yeah, I think with Wood, he got booked, didn't he? Start the second half.
Yeah.
So that was probably a risk there. But yeah, as we said, defensively, I thought we were really good. There was a moment where I think a few people were criticising Turnbull first half when that ball held up in the mud, but he thought it was going to run through to McGee, not get held up. But if he went for it, he would have taken McGee out, or McGee would have taken him out. So that was just kind of one of those things, really. But I think Apter as well, his energy levels went very early in the second half. So across that midfield, you've got Apter, his legs are gone. Morris was having a poor day. And then you've got Henry and Walker, who are really poor. And, the defence, even though we have criticised them, there's been individual errors. There's been errors where as a unit, they've not dealt with situations. But when you're constantly under the cosh, game after game, it takes its toll, and that's in any walk of life. If you're always under pressure, you're going to start making mistakes, and that's what happens. And so I do have some sympathy with our defence, because the problem is in the middle.